Hey folks, Tim Miller here, and I'm back. I so appreciate those of you who have sent me just countless emails and little messages of encouragement. Folks, I'll tell you, as many of you know, I'm involved in real security training and consulting across the nation, actually across the world. And our team is busier than we've ever been in my lifetime. I'll tell you, folks, it's scary kind of what's going on in our country. It is scary how quickly things are escalating. I want you to think just over the last month, we had 2 school shootings, kids executed in a Catholic school, another shooting in the Denver area. We had a precious Ukrainian immigrant butchered on a subway system. We've had Charlie Kirk, and the list goes on. Now, here's what I want to say from the start. For many of you that follow me, you know I'm not going to be the doomsday guy, but I am going to tell you this, folks. We have to wake up. I recently did an interview on Fox News, and we were talking about how dangerous schools are getting. And folks, I can't stress enough that for people that love our country, people that believe in our freedoms and Constitution, you got to get engaged. You can no longer sit back and say, well, you know, somebody else, I'll elect somebody, you know, somebody else will help. And here's what I want to do. I want to start with breaking news from Newsmax today, and I want to point out some things for those that haven't seen it. Newsmax warns us that the feds are now warning. Now, I want to make sure you're clear. This is a warning that horrific multi-city attacks are coming. The National Counterterrorism Center issued a sobering memo Friday warning that the U.S. designated terrorist group Al-Qaeda and its Yemen affiliate in Al-Qaeda remains intent on striking America. Now, I do want to pause here for a second and just say, isn't that special that the last administration pulled out of Afghanistan, where their operating bases were, gave them billions of dollars in U.S. equipment, and now here we go. We're facing the same types of threats that we faced in 2001, 9/11. And folks, I don't know how to say it other than to be just kind of very direct. Those that don't know me, I've got a career in the Marine Corps, career as a police officer, Secret Service and training. And I really want to encourage everybody that follows me. First off, I've been out a while, so I need your help getting back into the public space, liking and sharing. But I really want to raise the alarm because, let me say this, at one point in my career, I worked at the National Counterterrorism Center. I was part of the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force. And let me tell you, when they begin to say things like this, it's because they have credible information and sourcing suggesting that these types of attacks are very real and perhaps even in planning stages. Now, I don't know that. I don't deal in the classified world, but I will tell you, if you're hearing this message, it should be a wake-up call for all of us that we're going to see violence that's not just based on some of the current radical left ideology, but now we have an internal threat from, the extreme radical Islamic faith. And it's a double punch, folks. It just is what it is. And it's interesting because now National Counterterrorism Center is saying that, shock of all shocks, the internet's being used to radicalize our young people in the U.S. They're trying to inspire lone wolf attacks. They have urged all Americans, don't share your travel plans online. They've said, don't have IDs exposed where somebody could take a photo of that ID, possibly replicate it. Folks, this tells me that there is pre-operational surveillance being conducted by terrorist organizations, which, quite frankly, is extremely, extremely concerning. And so sources are telling Newsmax also that the Islamic terrorists affiliated with Al Qaeda, shock of all shocks, they're here. Well, imagine that. We open the borders. We let everybody come across that wanted to, including those that want to kill us. And now, instead of having to attack us and plan from Afghanistan, from Yemen, from across the Middle East, Syria, now they're here. And so, folks, the scary part is when they're here, because we're such a multicultural society, they can fit in, they can feed on radical Islamic areas where their planning is actually supported. So imagine, let me just kind of spell this out for us. Imagine multi-city attacks by more than one lone wolf. In other words, 2, 3. That's been our greatest nightmare for a long time. And guess what? That threat is here. It's real. When you have the National Counterterrorism Center saying, hey, you better be careful. If you're an American citizen, now grab this, folks. In America, we now have let our enemies right through the front door, and now they're in a position to try to hurt us. And so in some statements coming, from some of the radical Islamic leadership, there are no boundaries left after Gaza, making an open call to all Muslims in the U.S. to seek vengeance. Folks, this is the kind of stuff that quite frankly should concern all Americans. And so I just wanted to talk to you, number one, not necessarily to scare you, but I recently was talking on another channel, and I think there are some extremely grave threats in the U.S., unlike any time in our history since the Civil War, possibly World War II, where it's even more dangerous because the Japanese were in Japan, the Germans were in Germany. We have an enemy right here amongst us, and their whole goal is to destroy us. And I just want to challenge you, if you're listening to this, I like to use the acronym UP. Understand and prepare. Understand and prepare. The first thing we have to do, folks, is wake up. Americans need to understand. I don't care if you're 100 or if you're 20 and everybody in between, actually even teenagers. You need to wake up. You need to understand. Don't get your news sources from folks that are talking the same language. Be open, be aggressive in terms of where you get your news from. We're seeing so much slanted, I'll just call it propaganda, coming across a lot of the traditional news services, but also even some of the internet. So wake up. Pay attention to what's going on in our world. Educate yourself. Get facts. Guys like Chuck Holton, my friend Chuck Holton, he is a truth teller, and he's going to tell you from the places all over the world what to do. But wake up. And then the next thing we have to do is train up. Folks, we train organizations from Fortune 300 companies to governments to all kinds of churches, everybody in between. It is time to train up. Well, what do you mean by that? Number one is we have to begin to train our minds to be in a security mode. The most important thing you can do is to be aware and alert out in public. This warning from the National Counterterrorism Center reminds us they're going to be doing pre-operational surveillance. Well, what does that mean? It means they're watching you. They're watching places. Maybe they're filming. Maybe they're asking questions that normally somebody doesn't ask. Hey, do you guys have armed security here? Hey, what time do you close down? Hey. And oh, by the way, for a while, the targeting of these groups has focused on critical infrastructure, okay, power, all that kind of stuff, but now it's shifting. And folks, churches are in the radar. Churches are actually being part of the target set. Well, why is that? Because the Judeo-Christian ethic in America has always revolved around churches. And so they're in the mix. Schools are in the mix. If your child attends a school, get engaged with the leadership and say, I don't want to hear rhetoric. We can't afford it anymore. I want real security for my kids, grandkids at the school. Get involved, volunteer. So we're going to wake up, we're going to train up, and then I don't know how else to say it, folks. We better stand up. Every American better stand up for the country that they love. We better stand up in the marketplace of ideas. We better stand up in terms of elected leaders. We better stand up, and I'm not saying be radical, but we need to confront these lies with truth. Hey, folks, we should not live in a country where the criminal's valued more than the victim. What is going on? How are judges doing cashless bond to that animal that got out and slaughtered the Ukrainian, that beautiful little girl on the subway in Charlotte? How is that possible? Well, you know why it's possible? Because you and I led it. We ought to be every bit engaged in ensuring elected leaders, that's what we live under, a democracy. Elected leaders share our values. And you may say, well, I'm old, I really can't do much. No, you can. You can make a difference. You're on this earth for a reason. You're on this earth for a purpose. And, I think serving your country and serving others, man, I don't know of a greater purpose. And so here's what I'm going to say to you folks, understand and prepare. Up. We have to wake up in America. No more can we sit back, that's a political issue. No, it's not. Everything we're facing is a life issue. And so we need to wake up and say, wait a minute, why are we letting these people now, this administration is appropriately getting rid of people who have come into our nation illegally. And I know that gets me in trouble. I know people don't like that. Well, guess what? I'm in law enforcement. I've been my whole career. I happen to believe a simple truth. It's not a political issue whether you obey the law. It is a law issue. You have to obey the law. Not saying that there aren't case exceptions for a person who maybe has been here 20 years, but guess what? Get out there and elect leaders that are going to follow the law and not target police officers in their rhetoric and talk about defunding and how the police are the enemy. That's insanity. So we have to wake up. And then we have to train up. What does train up really look like? Well, first and foremost, we need to put these away when we're out and about. We need to pay attention to our surroundings, but also we have to have a little bit of training. Maybe it's CPR, maybe it's stop the bleed training, maybe it's tactical training. I'll tell you what, for young people, you better get tactical training. You better be prepared to defend yourself and others. And oh, by the way, I do mean and others. You see, we were sold a bunch of baloney with Daniel Penny on the subway when that Marine stepped up to do what Marines do, and that's protect innocent people from being attacked by a madman. Now, the procedure he used, he'd been trained to use, and unfortunately, Daniel Penny ended up being charged for an action I truly believe was not his fault. It was the action of the madman, I'm not even going to mention his name, that chose to attack and threaten people on a subway. How about this? How about instead of screaming for gun control, we as the people begin to scream for evil control? We begin to say, no. I want elected judges to follow the law, put these violent criminals in jail. And, folks, it's just like the evil folks that they are to blame and make excuses. Well, you're victimizing me because, let me tell you something. If you attack and murder You're done. I don't care what color, race, whatever you claim, you're done. You should not be in the presence of people that are vulnerable to another attack because you made the decision to be evil and attack others. So we're gonna wake up. We're going to train up, and then we're going to stand up. Folks, I don't know how else to say it. If you don't start attending school board meetings, letting your voice be heard, when you see rhetoric on the internet, and I'm not saying to be hostile or angry, speak the truth. You know, the Bible says speak the truth in love. Sometimes it's hard to speak the truth in love, but speak the truth. Don't be that person that goes to your grave knowing that you weren't part of the solution, you were part of the problem. And so I just wanted to jump on. I saw this today and I said, you know, I've got to get back. I'm going to be going back into regular videos like this one. We're going to talk about specifics of how you do some of the things to protect yourself. Let me just encourage you, based on this intelligence, I don't know that I'd be in large crowded areas for a while. I'd be very careful where I went. And, you know, one of the things, you know, we try to prepare people for is how to respond, how to prepare it ahead of time for a crisis, and then how to respond to a crisis. And so I hope you'll, you know, begin to prepare. You know, many people are appropriately saying, you know, we want to arm ourselves, and that's great if you get good training. I am not an advocate of just anybody walking around, you know, with those types of weapons and without training. So safety training, practical training. And let me just say this as I close. Folks, it's now time. Your kids and grandkids, if you're older, are going to mark, this is a World War II moment in our country. We are in a crisis. I don't think many people, you know, understand. I think Charlie Kirk's assassination brought it home how violent certain elements of our society are. They tried, you know, to take the life of our president. They took the life of Charlie Kirk. And I think this is not a, people go, oh, that's a political statement. No, it's not. It's a right-wrong statement. We don't want to live, nor should we tolerate living in a violent place where we can't even go to the grocery store without some sick, twisted person targeting us. And guess what? Over the last 4 years, and I know this is a fact, we let a really bad group of folks into our country, trained people that hate us, that would love to see nothing more than America destroyed. So the question for you is, are you willing to stand for her? Are you willing to stand for your country, and most importantly, to pray, you know, to do right in the eyes of the law and others, but stand firm? You know, I was recently speaking to a group at a church, and, you know, I think I would remind all of us that in Scripture it says that we are to be meek, not weak. Meek is strength under control. Meek is having a powerful mindset that can step in and do what needs to be done, but it's under control. And that's what I would encourage all of us today. So anyway, I hope this is helpful for you. It's good to be back. I'd love, please, like, comment, and share if you can. LionHeart is going to be doing a lot more stuff like this. I feel like this is a mechanism. We're also going to jump back in to real training for churches. By that I mean we've got an incredible team, and I think I shared with some of you in a previous video that we have one member of our team, former Secret Service, that was actually in the middle of the mass shooting in Las Vegas, and the lessons he learned. And I'll tell you, when we go into train churches now, we're training with a whole different mindset. This is not, this is real training, biblically centered, but real training. So, folks, I hope this is helpful. I hope and pray that you're staying safe out there. Would love to see your comments. Let's get back in the algorithm so we can get out here and help people and make a difference. So God bless you. Stay safe.